Thank you very much, Brian. That was captivating, I think, because it's talking about something like blockchain in correlation with digital twin is quite interesting. And you get some real operators who operate in that space. It's an interesting discussion, really interesting discussion. Thank you very much for moderating that, Brian, as well. I'm delighted to be joined by the guru, Dr. Michael Greaves. I'm really happy to be joined with you, actually. So, how are you doing, Michael, by the way? You okay?
I am just peachy today. Fascinated with the conversation. Yeah, I'm doing fine.
What
I'm out of Florida, but I'm up in Michigan at the moment, so I avoided Hurricane Ian. But
I was going to say,
out
yeah,
at Cocoa
you
Beach,
probably.
we got a little rain, and that was it. So we were very lucky.
Oh God, yeah, I know. What did you make of today? Before I ask you a couple of questions, what were your thoughts on today? Because you've sat in so many of these events, for digital twin. Have we raised new points? Have we raised things that need to be raised? Do you think as well with the industry?
Yeah, quite frankly, in fact, I was talking to my wife. I'm just amazed how fast this thing has taken off and into all areas. So it's really fascinating to hear all the entailments of it. A couple interesting things is the fact that people say, well, I talked to 100 different people and there's 100 different definitions. Quite frankly, if you do a Google search, there's 400,000 definitions, and even accounting for some duplicates it is not a definitional based thing. In fact, I liken it to the blind man and the elephant. Depending on what part of the elephant you're touching is what your definition is, and it goes back to the fact that this is driven by use cases and
Yeah,
value. So use cases that create value, and so depending on what sort of use case you're focused on for creating value, you're going to have a slightly different definition. I mean, I have a definition I did for the kind of the seminal chapter on this, and I wasn't even happy with it. There's no way you're going to capture this in words what we're trying to do. So the
mm,
other thing is a lot of talk about efficiency. One of the big opportunities here is effectiveness. I mean, you can be efficient
yeah,
and not do what you want to do. So the whole idea of digital twin is it's going to do for you what you think you're trying to accomplish. So
yeah.
in fact, I liken it to the Minority Report with Tom Cruise, if you remember that, where he predicted that like so the whole idea here is you're sitting there and you're looking into the
That's a
future
great analogy,
about what's going to
guys.
happen, and you basically are going to say, "Wait a minute, I don't like that part of the future. I'm going to go fix it before it happens." And in point of fact, I always say, that's the difference between Industry 4.0 and digital twin. Is Industry 4.0 was about I'm going to reduce the time from an adverse event to remediation. I don't want to have the event happen, and so I'm
Mm,
going to basically, I look at the digital twin as a time machine that lets us look forward in time, and in point of fact, lets us recreate the history if something's happened and we want to figure out what's happened. I heard one of the presentations that said, we're talking about a hybrid model that is, has real data and then simulation. I mean, that's my front running simulation. I mean, we're going to rerun a simulation at every time zero with the data that's
mm,
coming in and get probabilities of what's going to happen. I mean, it's not an exact thing that's going to occur, but we can say, hey, there's 80% chance that this is going to happen in 2 days, and 100% chance it's going to happen in 6 days. So the opportunity for the digital twin is this idea of looking forward in the future, Minority Report, kind of thing, that allows us to see, the probabilities of what's going to happen. So a lot of good stuff,
mm.
in terms of what we're focused on. And again, trying to homogenize it into one definition is just not going to work. Let's
Yeah.
focus on use cases that create value.
Can I ask you though, what about this data conundrum that everyone talks about? I mean, it was mentioned on every panel, even non-data panels. At what stage, and I want to ask you from your own point of view, at what stage do you deploy a digital twin? Because I've heard companies saying you don't need to have your data in order, we can sort it out. You don't need to have it in a specific way or wait for it to be done in a specific way for you to do it. Because once, if you do that, then you'll never have a product like a digital twin in your company. So, what's your opinion on that? Because I've heard this so many times, and I still don't know what's the right thing. If you get my drift.
Sure. And so let me kind of back up from worst case situation. Is there some people, and it's getting less. And in fact, I covered it in my last paper, which is available out on ResearchGate. The fact that you don't have a digital twin until something rolls off the assembly line or you have something completed. That's a fallacy.
Mm.
I mean, where do you have a digital twin? As soon as you come up with an idea that you want to have a particular product. So it's the intent to start to have a product that you start to have a digital twin. I mean, in the past, as soon as we had an idea that we wanted to share, it had to take physical form. We had to do, we
Mm.
had to do a sketch or blueprints or a prototype in order to be able to describe it to everybody, because our mental space is not, the digital twin space. And so what the digital twin allows us to do is, as soon as we have a vague idea, we start to create the digital twin, even if it's simply, one-dimensional data that we're looking at. And so I have
Mm.
a very pervasive view of digital twin. As soon as I have an intent to do a product, it's not a model that I'm testing out to say, gee, I wonder how gravity works. But it's basically, I have an intent to create something that I want, that I actually am going to realize in physical form, and that's my start of the digital twin. That's my digital
Mm.
twin, prototypical digital twin. As soon as I have an idea, I got a digital twin.
Yeah, I like that. That's clever. That's the way everyone should think, to be honest. In terms of what we were discussing today, we've obviously had some good examples of digital twin, giving value today. We've heard it a lot
Right.
in the presentations as well. Obviously, you hear any presentation talks about value, what value it can create. What approaches should we use with leadership to obtain investment to really develop those digital twin projects? Because I think that's what it comes down to, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think you hit the nail on the head. The technology piece, I'm bullish on. It's like water
Mm.
seeking its own level. The technology basically takes advantage of the capabilities that are out there. The big
Mm.
problem we have is cultural on two fronts.
Yeah.
One is the leadership front, and because I'm old and have been a senior executive and been on boards, public boards. Other executives will say to me, I really don't understand this stuff, and we get a presentation. What the hell are we doing? And and too often, from the project perspective, we assume that senior executive is going to understand the things that they need to understand. And so education of senior executives has to be a priority. And so then there's sort of two pieces of that. One is my suggestion is you have to have proof of concept stuff. You need to go after some low hanging fruit and
Mm.
prove out the fact. If you go in and say, okay, give me $250 million, I'm going to give you a great digital twin. You're not going to last
Yeah.
long at that board meeting. Okay. On the other hand, if you overhype what you're going to propose, I can do a digital twin and it's going to look just like reality. In fact, you don't live in the physical world anymore. You can live in digital twin world. Um, you're not you're going to fail miserably. I mean, I heard
Mm.
one of the presentations that 70% of digital twin projects fail. Somebody's doing something wrong. I mean, because quite frankly, there's so many opportunities out there to get low hanging fruit that I can't imagine a 70% failure rate. I mean, so remember, my premise is information is a replacement for wasting resources, not the resources I need
Yeah.
to do the project, but the wasted resources. And there's tons of wasted resources in our world, and so you got to just pick an area where you can basically get efficiency or effectiveness, and you trade information off for that. And assuming you're smart enough to get the right information, you use data to create that information, and assume it
Mm.
reflects the physical world, and you've got your physics right about how the world's going to work. um, you shouldn't have digital twin failures. I mean, only if you're such a technologist to say, I'm going to create this entire world. And by the way, a few of those have been done, but they're very expensive, and it's a hell of a lot of brute force programming. Um, but I can't imagine 70% failure rate. I can't imagine even a 10% failure rate. I mean, you'd have to screw up, in my estimation, of the project you're picking big time.
Don't
So,
you think though? Don't you think one thing though, Michael, that when you have, we obviously you're aware of how they apply digital twin in different industries. Automotive's leading the way, along with aerospace and these sort of industries in particular. And then you've got oil and gas, which unfortunately has this legacy of siloed data working. And there was a panel today. I don't know. I think it was a net zero panel, and I don't know if it was Rob Tiffany who mentioned this, and he was saying, look, it's dealing with oil and gas is not easy, but then you've got these new energy transition companies now. It's much easier because they don't have that legacy, so they can just jump into it. So, do you not think that's part of the problem, that you've got these Chevrons, these Exxons, these real sort of these legacy organizations with God knows how they used to do these spreadsheets and everything else, changing from that to that, it's not easy, is it? I would have thought though, but
you also have to remember that information is power, and one of the reasons the
yeah,
information
true.
is siloed is people, they don't want to give up that information. I mean, to
Yeah,
share it across. I mean, we talk about collaboration and sharing across.
yeah,
There are some people that are there to say, you know what, I'm important right now because I'm the only one that knows this stuff.
yeah. That's a
I mean,
good
the other
point.
thing is information is money. So some of the vendors are going to say, wait a minute, I can monetize this stuff. Why would I give
Mm,
it up, when I can make money off of it? So again, I don't think it's a technical issue. I think a lot of this is cultural and human nature sort of thing that you have to wrestle to the ground. I mean, right at the beginning of my career, I got sent into the telephone company to do a system, and I was 19 years old, and I did a great system, and I came back and it wasn't working. Why? Because they changed the way they did things because they didn't like the fact that people were seeing the data that the system was generating. So as I
yeah,
say, the dumbest person can basically make the smartest system fail every day of the week. And so the
yeah,
cultural issues, and there isn't a lot of discussion about that, but the cultural issues are big issues that need to get wrestled to the ground. I mean, we have plenty of technology issues, but quite frankly,
yeah.
that's basically kind of turning the crank and making sure you have system thinking and all this good stuff that we can do. But a lot of the silo thing is because somebody has an advantage of having that information siloed.
Very perceptive, Michael. Very perceptive, actually. Finally, digital. Obviously, I can't even say the word. I keep on, tongue twisting me. Digital twins. Obviously, they don't involve the organisation itself. We saw today. We know this anyway, that there's suppliers involved. There's tiers of suppliers involved as well. So you've got
Yeah.
suppliers and we've got customers. How do you build an ecosystem with all of these put together? How do you go about that way? That's probably one of the biggest problems that you've got.
So very carefully. um, the 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 issue of it is that, again, you have to understand, where's the monetary trade-off in some of this information and why people do it. So vendors to the customers, the customers need to get together to make sure that it's a beneficial for the customer side and not simply just for the vendor side. So you've got to worry about that. My big concern is the small to medium manufacturers, and so it doesn't do you any good to have this great ecosystem, and it gets down to a certain level, and these people are the old blueprints, or spreadsheets or things like that. And I think there the OEMs, the big customers, the people that have the money are going to have to invest in the training and education, and even in the technology development for their smaller group, because those
Mm,
the the small entrepreneurs, he can't afford it. I mean, and one of the things that has helped is we've moved from you have to have a full blown IT department in order to do this to buy by the drink in some of these technologies. That needs to continue on, and the small to medium guys need to be able to buy this stuff, cloud services, for example. But I think that assuming, I mean, you got the same problem with leadership as you do with the small guys. The
Yeah.
education piece and bringing them along to understand this is, I think, going to be key to doing that. So I think we, as technologists, sometimes underestimate what the rest of the world, looks like to these people. I mean, it looks pretty scary. If Arthur Clarke said, any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And to some of these people, it looks like magic. So I think that we need to, give as much focus to the people cultural aspects as we give to the
Yeah.
technology, because we've got to bring along a whole bunch of people. Now, the positive thing is we have all the digital natives coming into the workforce. They've never known the world without computers. But the older folks, I mean, one of the things I see, and I won't name any names, but retirementitis, okay, from senior leadership. Please don't bring me a project that I have no understanding with, so I can get safely to retirement. And they'll give you other objections, but their big objection is they don't want to admit that they don't know what this is, and
Yeah.
we need education courses for senior leadership from people that they're not threatened by. But they're not, a lot of them aren't going to let their subordinates, come in and educate them. The good ones will, but some of them are, I don't want to act like I don't know this stuff. So we
Yeah.
again, the technology piece I'm comfortable with. I think the cultural people piece we've got to work on.
Wise words, Dr. Michael Greaves. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for also speaking on the panel earlier. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope next time when we do an event together, you'll add some more insights into it. But it's been a pleasure having you here, Michael. I really appreciate it.
Well, I'd like to do it in person, so figure out how to do
Yeah,
that
I
one. All
know. I
right.
will do
So,
it in person next year. Don't worry.
all righty. Sounds good.
Thanks, Michael. Take care. Yeah.